Is it a publicity stunt or smart advertising? I'm talking about the new campaign ad featuring Ron DeSantis, his wife, and their 2 kids. As you probably know, DeSantis is running to be Florida's next governor. And you've probably seen this particular ad on our air. You know, some people think it's unusual, some people love it. I actually spoke to someone with his campaign, and they told me that the ad is meant to be funny, not taken so seriously. So instead of verifying the information in that ad, I'm taking a look at whether it actually is effective.
Everyone knows my husband, Ron DeSantis, is endorsed by President Trump, but he's also an amazing dad.
The ad starts off with Casey DeSantis, Ron's wife, and a former host of First Coast Living on NBC 12. The next shot, you see DeSantis building a wall with his daughter Madison.
Make America great again.
It's no secret that President Trump is endorsing Ron DeSantis for governor. Take a look at this ad just released by the DeSantis campaign.
True leader, a proud veteran, a tough, brilliant cookie.
But a lot of Republican candidates are throwing President Trump's name around in their campaign ads, even those not endorsed by him.
I'm Adam Putnam, and we need to support President Trump's plan to secure our borders.
I went to political expert Dr. Michael Bender at the University of North Florida with a few questions, and he says there is a reason you hear the president's name in a lot of Republican campaign ads.
Trump is very, very popular. So if you need to get Republican votes and Trump is popular, align yourself with him. Get him to tweet about you. Get his endorsement. That will help you.
But will this strategy hurt a Republican candidate's chances of gaining new voters?
The problem comes in November when you're facing a Democrat and majorities disapprove of the job that he's doing. How do you distance yourself from cozying up to him so much in August, 2 months from now?
Dr. Bender says the candidates need to think about the voters they're isolating.
If you want to win in November, you're going to need nonpartisan affiliates. You're going to need independents. You're going to need some Democrats. And if you're not on board with DeSantis and maybe you're ho-hum on Trump, I don't think this was a great ad to that group. This potentially, if he wins the nomination, this is the type of thing that could come back to haunt him in a general election.
But right now, DeSantis is seeing success. He's leading the polls by a lot against his opponent, Adam Putnam. But the question is, if he wins the primaries, how will he do on Election Day? If there's an ad you would like for us to verify, just send us an email, verify@firstcoastnews.com.